Hello, I'd like to deposit this to checking.
Fate is a fickle master.
What?
The future is uncertain.
Okay, and what's my account balance?
The horizon is cloudy. I see a long, treacherous voyage filled with great peril.
Look, can I just get a deposit slip or something?
A Fortune bank teller. Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
I see a yellow-eyed serpent and a low APR.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Don Le Batard.
Guillermo, put it on the poll. Are you disturbed at all that Stugotz thinks extortion and blackmail are normal business practices?
Stugotz.
It has to drive you crazy because you are smart, you are well thought out, you are reasonable, you are balanced, and I just come in with blackmail, COB.
And they love you more.
Yep, spot on is
And
what they're saying.
I'm so envious. I want their love.
You're not going to get it.
Their love's important to me. I want the love of dumb people.
This is the Don Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Guest on the Dan Le Batard Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Chris Sims going to be there in a half hour, 12:30 Eastern. Here's your SportsCenter update. Kevin Durant was ejected late in the Warriors' 123-112 win versus the Knicks and believes...
Why does he keep getting ejected?
Here's why, at least according to him. He believes referee James Williams was targeting him all throughout the game. Durant now has 4 ejections and 10 technical fouls this season. It's a weird place where the players are with the referees.
Well, but Durant himself, though, like he is fighting this feud where he's got the overwhelming side and he wants to fight everyone and nobody wants to fight him. We're like, we get it, Kevin. You're on the best team. Leave us alone.
I still want to fight him.
By far, the Golden State Warriors lead the league in ejections over recent history. And I think part of it is just they know that they're so good that they're not necessarily needed for an entire game.
This feels like Stugotz, how Stugotz would work. Well, we've seen it today with snot all over his face.
Yeah.
Once the machine gets so powerful, you could just get ejected and take a segment or two off. They take quarters off at a time. They might have it written into their contracts. The Warriors each of them only has to play 3 quarters worth of basketball a season.
I'm getting ejected tonight, guys.
Yes, I'm going to be the one ejected. I want to take a break.
They still won.
Yeah, of course. Well, of course, they still won.
They were playing the Knicks. He annoys me. They annoy me. I've said this well before Kevin Durant even got there. They are so spoiled and so entitled. And it starts with Steve Kerr and it trickles down to the players. They don't get calls. They go bananas,
I know,
man.
but I love that they are better than everyone else and they know it. I always want more of that with my sport.
All right. A vandal has caused thousands of dollars in damage to the Field of Dreams by driving a vehicle onto the site made famous by the 1989 movie. That is sad. And finally, rapper Machine Gun Kelly will play Tommy Lee in an upcoming Netflix biopic about Motley Crue adapted from the classic 2001 memoir, The Dirt. Really upset about that Field of Dreams thing. For all the latest headlines and information, tune in to the SportsCenter on ESPN Radio all throughout the day.
Stugotz, this is a disagreement I've been having in sports with people for 20 years. I always think it's more interesting to have the sports team that knows it's great, that is great, knows it's great, and reminds you at every turn that it is great. I prefer that to the Patriots and the Spurs. The Spurs, we all know how great they are. I think they'd be even more fun if they knew how great they were and decided to show us the way the Warriors do.
If they were telling you and showing you just how great the Patriots were. You're right.
They're
kind of boring.
Well,
right.
You would love that if it was your team. Every sports fan would love it if they had the team. Hey, we know we're great, and we throw in your face that we're great.
Sure.
And you rarely get to see us humbled because of how great we are. First of all, every fan base would want that as a feeling.
100%.
But I understand why it agitates you to be on the receiving end of what the Warriors are doing. Of course, we're going to get annoyed and frustrated by the Warriors because they're beating everyone up and they know they're better than everyone and there is no way to dethrone them.
I like it as well. I can still be annoyed by it while it's going on. For me, Dan, I just don't like Kevin Durant doing it.
I know, but it's
he wasn't part of this from the beginning.
No, but
he was a piece.
What I am telling you is how great that is for the sport.
Yes.
To have this entity that you tune in just to see, hey, can someone beat them? Can the Rockets do it? You're tuning in the same way you tune into Alabama football.
Correct.
The way that you tune into Patriots games. Can someone do this? It's so great for the sport that not only that they are this, but that they behave this way. Behaving like they know it makes them the best and the villain. And that's great at the top of your sport.
Wasn't that Michael Jordan and the Bulls?
No.
But no, Dan, you would tune in every year to think maybe Karl Malone's going to get him this year.
No, Michael Jordan and the Bulls were great, knew they were great, but never the villain. Never the villain.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
In
fact, the other teams were the Knicks were the villain, right?
You might tune in, can someone get him, the way
Sure.
you do with Brady.
Right.
But not like this. Like, I love this heel turn by the Warriors that they've got Draymond Green, and instead of following the Steph model, they're following the Draymond model. Hell, Dave Chappelle, just in the middle of his Netflix special, just threw out there, Draymond Green's the blackest name in sports. Chappelle just tossed it out there that it's the blackest name there can be. Draymond Green. They didn't go Steph Stroud. No, the Warriors are like, bleep you. We ride with Draymond. We're gonna kick you in the junk. Durant, I mean, this is an amazing thing to witness. Durant was on the angelic path to not being the evil LeBron James. He signs his contract extensions quietly as opposed to this egomaniac LeBron who has a television show to announce his free agency.
Do you remember his initial marketing strategy at Nike? It was like, hey guys, no, he is interesting. He does say stuff. It was all about how quiet Kevin Durant was, a quiet superstar, the anti-LeBron.
It is just such a great thing for that league that now traffics in petty and gossip to have at the top of his food chain a guy who's creating burner egg accounts on Twitter to argue with his critics. Because amazing as it is, Kevin Durant, they went and recruited Kevin Durant after losing in the final. Steph Curry on bent knee, 2-time MVP of the league. And the choice at that point could have been, we're going to do cooking shows with Steph's wife, who's adorable. They're America's family. They've got a father who played in the NBA. It's so cute. And Durant's like, bleep this. I follow Draymond. Ejections all over the place. Tees all over the place. No, we're not going the cuddly, adorable Steph Curry route as a team. Nope. Eat this, bleep you. Whoa. Whoa, that's great. Hey, honestly, they should roll into town on a bus. Eat this, bleep you.
And it's working.
Oh,
It's working like the heel wrestler that tells me my town is full of fat, lazy people.
Mike, how about this? They don't even bother to win at home. But, man, do they love going on the road and kicking your ass.
Oh, yes. That's their favorite thing to do
Oh, my
now.
God.
Yes,
Yeah, because it used to be adorable. Oh, Steph from 3, Oracle's going crazy. No, now it's hissing defiance. We follow Draymond Green. A guy that Chappelle is telling you is the blackest name in black.
Yeah. 21-4 on the road.
Chappelle says that. That's been notarized by Chappelle. And Draymond knows how great he is. And Draymond will tell you how great he is. And Draymond knows how great they are. And Draymond will enjoy the whole idea of, we're going to kick your ass. And we're going to tell you that we're going to kick your ass beforehand. Then we're going to kick your ass. And after we've kicked your ass, we're going to remind you that we kicked your ass.
Durant annoys me, though. I'm sorry.
That's fine. But it's great that they create feelings in you, Stugotz. Yeah. It doesn't matter what the feelings are. It's great that they create feelings in you.
I didn't have these feelings, though, until Durant got there. Like, I was fine with the Warriors until Durant got there.
But do you understand that that is good for their business?
100%.
That
yes,
you feeling anger is so much better than you feeling indifference because you know the NBA is a foregone conclusion because they're too good.
Yes, very good for them.
Now you're rooting against them.
Yes.
Now there's hostility in the air, and, you know, the one time they lost in the last few years is because Draymond literally couldn't stop kicking people in the junk.
Right.
You were never rooting against the Spurs and their quiet excellence. You weren't invested. Some of those of NBA finals are the lowest rated
The worst.
finals.
Pistons Spurs was the worst. You didn't care at all because those teams were just great, and who cares?
It's kind of like the Heat down here, right?
But how about the bad boy Pistons? How about that? I long for that time. Look how much you guys love the idea of the Clippers making their way to the Rocket, or the Rockets making their way to the Clippers locker room. Like the whole idea of it, The Warriors are now soaked somehow. What I thought was going to go the route of Steph Curry and the cooking shows with his wife, they're instead soaked in go bleep yourself.
Your point about Jordan never being the villain is valid because he couldn't be the villain because the bad boy Pistons and the Knicks were there.
That's right.
Right, but when Rodman got there, did they become the villain? When Dennis Rodman was there?
No,
Jordan,
Rodman was shy at the beginning. Rodman was painfully shy. He'd break down crying during public appearances.
Yeah. Jordan was such a hero to everybody. He was always the good guy, and the person blocking Jordan from his destiny, they were the bad guy.
Rodman did bring a little of that to the Bulls because he brought that whole MTV reality show circus with him. So he brought some of that, and he was also playing with gender stuff before anybody else was playing with gender stuff, wearing dresses and being in drag.
But Mike is right. When you're trying to get through, and the Bulls were trying to get through them, and did get through them every year, Anthony Mason and Charles Oakley, it's hard to be the bad boy.
And Rodman did kick that cameraman, and that was a huge scandal when he was a Chicago Bull.
I can't believe what a great thing that has become for the sport in the short term. The idea that this team is this. And the Miami Heat of those 4 years of LeBron James spent too much time trying to be liked. This team doesn't seem to care.
No,
they're going to swallow Curry, too. It's like those Tebow teams that Urban Meyer had in Florida where you could put the Tebow halo over it and it didn't matter that you had a murderer, Aaron Hernandez, in your huddle.
Yep.
They were going to put the Steph Curry halo over this huddle.
But he seems to want in on this.
No, but Draymond and Kevin, yes, that's exactly right. Steph wants to take the heel turn, too.
If I was the man I was 5 years ago, I would take a flamethrower to this place.
You do realize, Stugotz, that is also how, in terms of legacy building, if you believe in the idea that Kyrie Irving wanted to get out from LeBron's shadow because he wants to make his own name for himself, wants to do things differently because LeBron James is the old guard and he's the new guard, nobody's ever done it the way the Warriors appear to be choosing, which is the model on excellence is be Pete Sampras, be Tom Brady, be Derek Jeter, be Michael Jordan, never be bleep you. Bleep you, customer.
Right.
Like, I'm getting ejected. I don't care. I don't care that you're offended by how arrogant I am or how great I am. I'm going to be that great and that arrogant in your face.
Does it feel a little different because it feels like no one can beat them? At least with those Bulls teams, you did say to yourself, wow, maybe Portland can knock them off.
I think that if you choose to view it as ugly, the reason it would be ugly is the only reason they're doing it is because they know no one can beat them.
Right.
Like if you it's the ugliest side of sort of this cutthroat thing. The reason they're behaving ugly, and I'm stunned by it, is because they know you can't do anything about it. It's amazing.
Yeah, we're going to keep acting like this.
It's
what are you going to do?
Yeah. What are you going to do other than lose?
Beat us 4-7.
Hi, this is Papi. Do you know that my TV show Highly Questionable is not only on ESPN2 every day at 4:30 Eastern, it is also available as a podcast. You can listen or subscribe to the Highly Questionable podcast on ESPN app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Don Le Batard.
I had a dream last night about the show that Stugotz was filling in for Joe Buck on his podcast, and Allison called me to tell me what a great job Stugotz did. And I realized this is a dream because Allison would never praise Stugotz. Stugotz would never fill in for Joe Buck's podcast that may or may not even exist.
And if I did, it wouldn't be good.
Factually, a lot of factual errors in your dream.
What a weird dream.
Yeah.
Stugotz.
So that's the height of your fantasies, Guillermo.
Well, maybe it was a nightmare. I don't know. It happened when I was asleep.
Thank you, Guillermo.
That's how dreams work.
Yep.
This is the Don Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
Right now on ESPN, the Michigan State doctor is facing 25 to 40 years in prison. He's awaiting sentencing for criminal sexual conduct involving gymnastics, aged girls. And Stugotz, you have teenage daughters, and so I imagine, as awful as some of these crimes are, the people who feel them most desperately and deeply are people who have teenage daughters, because you can imagine your daughter being corrupted or contaminated by the worst of sexual perversions in a way that's damaging later in life.
Sure.
What I want to ask you, though, about Michigan State, because now there is a storm, and the president of the university is probably going to get swallowed in this. And I'm just wondering, the nature of crimes against kids, are you guys good with just sort of the absolute, if you have one of those on your campus, president needs to go? And the reason I ask the question is because a lot of people are making the arguments on behalf of this president and 30 years of what they believe to be good work. But if this creeps onto your campus,
right,
where a doctor is allowed, enabled, that somehow people didn't know, and what you get is sexual crimes against young people, do you want to be discerning about that one, or do you want to be emotional and simply say, and I would understand if you did, an absolute, if that's on your campus, president, you're out?
Well, it's not just the 30 years of good work by the president. A lot of people are saying the president did exactly what the president was supposed to do when this arrived at their doorstep. This story in particular. But
when the flames climb on this, we saw it at Penn State. It's the worst sports scandal in the history of sports scandals. Once the flames climb on this,
right,
everyone ends up getting swallowed. And I ask you, and I ask the audience, where do I have to put the president's standing and impeachment for you to say, you know what? I don't think it's fair if the flames grab the president. Like, where do I have to put the person's credentials where you would say, nope, I believe that person is above accountability on this one? Or by nature of being the leader of a university, does that buck always stop with you? I don't know. I don't have an answer to that question, by the way, because I would hate to be, obviously, the child who's a victim. I would hate to be the parent of childs who are victim, but I would also hate to be the president in that circumstance where everything I've done, whatever it is, it's not going to be enough. Nothing matters. My career ends on the spot with something that happened on my watch somewhere else on campus, and I just got to eat that one for life.
It's an interesting question. Just speaking as a parent here, I would want everyone, right up to the president, to be fired. Mm-hmm. I would. Mm-hmm. Like, how did you not know this was going on in your institute, on your campus? How did you not? No one ever spoke a word about this to anyone.
I get that.
How did it not get to you?
But do you understand why I also am scared of that mob once it starts moving? Once that starts moving, and I get it. That mob, once it starts moving, there's no argument to be won against it.
No, but Dan, I can't blame a single parent if that's how they feel.
Of course. Of course not. You'd be so angry. What a huge public betrayal. What a huge private betrayal. The idea that you send your kids off to university or you send your kids off to school in the name of learning, and that's what they learn under your administrator.
Correct. Like, I send one of my daughters plays lacrosse and the other one is very into dance, and we send her to like a hardcore dance studio. She does all this stuff. And if I found out, I know the owners of the studio, but if I found out one of their instructors was doing something like that to my child, I would want to burn the whole place down.
I know, and how can one argue against that, right? But let's say you're in that mood, okay? Let's say you're in the rabid place that would totally be understandable of, I want to burn the whole place down. And now the person in front of you is saying, hey, I have daughters too. I didn't know about it. I've got an unimpeachable resume for 3 decades. Please don't swallow my career over this. And I can prove to you with 100% certainty that was not something that I could have done anything differently on that would have prevented your daughter's pain. Man. I'm just wondering if the humanity of that reaches people when you're understandably rabid about the worst crime that you could commit, which is sexual crimes against children.
I think you'd be able to reach some people, right? Just not everyone.
I don't know.
I'd like to think that maybe if that was put in front of me after I got through the emotion, right? And I don't know if you ever get, fully through it. I'd like to think maybe I'd be able to make a rational decision and give you a rational answer.
But if I separate you from the emotion and I say, hey, vengeance, do you think vengeance is the way to go here? Do you think the way to solve this is burn everything down? Very few people are choosing that as a route, are they? As the logical route toward a solution? Just burn it all down. But I get it. This is breaking news right now on ESPN. The doctor is just standing there and everyone is disgusted by the crimes that he is accused of. And he's going to get 25 to 40 years in prison. And that's going to be, the rest of his life is going to be an eternal suffering, because that's the worst place in the world for this kind of criminal. You cannot have this near your university. Like, you just can't have this on television. And if it climbs to the highest places and even unfairly engulfs your power structure, I don't know that there's anything in the modern age that you can do other than say, yep, That's going to cost you your job every time.
Don Lebatard.
Stugotz is disgusting.
Stugotz.
Yep.
This is the Don Lebatard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
Mike, he's at his grossest today. He's had mayonnaise all over his fingers all day.
It's good, man.
Stugotz is at his grossest today.
Yeah. Feels good. ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Guest on the Dan Le Batard Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Chris Sims going to be there in just a minute. Here's your SportsCenter update. Kevin Durant was ejected late in the Warriors' 123-112 win versus the Knicks and believes referee James Williams was targeting him all throughout the game. Durant now has 4 ejections and 10 technical fouls this season. A vandal has caused thousands of dollars in damage to the Field of Dreams by driving a vehicle onto the site made famous by the 1989 movie. And finally, Hawaii's governor says he knew that the missile alert that gripped the state a couple of weeks ago was a false alarm. However, he couldn't log on to Twitter to calm Hawaiians' nerves because he forgot his password. Really? For all the latest headlines and information, tune in the SportsCenter on ESPN Radio all throughout the day.
Mike, in honor of the Warriors getting ejected and technical fouls and Draymond Green being the general face and attitude of that team, what is the most bleep you team in the history of sports? Is it the bad boy Pistons? Is it the old Oakland Raider teams?
80 Canes.
Late 80s, early 90s, University of Miami.
Cowboys in the 90s, maybe?
Cowboys in the 90s.
That's a pretty good
great.
one.
Cowboys.
That was just the Canes after college.
Yes, that was Canes after dark.
Yeah.
The Cowboys were Canes after dark.
It's just them older, man.
Yeah, it was Michael Irvin. It was the same guys.
Jimmy
Jimmy Johnson. That's right.
Out of here.
All right.
Same exact guys.
Chris Sims with us now. We are at number 40. Blake Bortles is the 70th best quarterback in the world, according to Chris Sims of Bleacher Report, and I agree with him.
We're almost halfway home.
We're almost halfway there. The last, you might be interested in 50 through 40, so here it is. 50 is Mark Sanchez, 49, Teddy Bridgewater, 48, Kelly Clemens. That's a bit of an upset.
Kellen, fine.
Kellen Clemens being ahead of Teddy Bridgewater. Number 47, Chase Daniels. You are becoming surgically fast
Just
at that.
Chase Daniels. That's a fun.
Wow.
And
what
did I
you should
say?
read the list.
Chase
It's gonna cause you-
Daniels.
Yeah.
That's a common mistake.
I'm keeping track.
All right. This is what I'm telling you, though. One day, your laser-like precision in getting me with the fines, that quickness, you're going to be startled by my MMA quickness as I sever a hole in your neck and you bleed out on air because you've done that to me again.
That would be a career ender.
Number 46, E.J. Manuel. Number 45, Blaine Gabbert. Number 44, Drew Stanton. Number 43, Matt Moore. Number 42, Trevor Siemian. And number 41 is Ryan Fitzpatrick. So, Chris Sims of Bleacher Report, the 40th best quarterback in the world and galaxy today is?
Mike Glennon, Chicago Bears.
Wow. Funny,
I agree. I agree. Glennon would be in the Super Bowl today if he were the quarterback of the Jags, correct?
Well, yes, I would agree. Yes, I mean, unfortunately, yes, I'm here to say that they wouldn't have taken a knee with 55 seconds and 2 timeouts. That's for sure.
Wait, that's where we should get to. Which of these quarterbacks would they not have taken a knee?
Honestly, there has been no greater proof of what Chris Sims saying is truth than 2 timeouts, 55 seconds left, and Jacksonville kneels because they don't want their quarterback doing something dumb.
Right, and I mean, I don't know if you guys saw like the Monday, press conference by Doug Marrone. I mean, he basically said, he goes, they do some cool coverages, and we're not very good in those situations all year long. So again, you just got to kind of be cryptic there. But the list, it's going to get interesting here soon. There's, I study this hard, as I've told you a million times, but I got some good names coming up here pretty soon. That I think you're going to be like, wow, okay, really?
All right, good tease, yes, good tease. We look forward to talking to you tomorrow. Thank you, Chris.
All right, guys. Have a good day. See ya.
You too, Chris. Love that guy.
He's right. This whole Blake Bortles thing's about to pivot into just Chris Sims' top 30 quarterbacks, and we're going to get offended at where Aaron Rodgers is.
It's going to get good.
It is.
I love that that we're only 30 in, and he says, soon it'll get interesting. We're 30 in. And soon it'll be interesting.
That's really the way you have to do it, I think, is which quarterbacks would you, if you had them on your team where you wouldn't take a knee with 2 timeouts and 55 seconds
honestly,
to go.
It's really insulting.
I'm beginning to think that maybe we should have done this in reverse order. Yeah. Because the funny part is all the quarterbacks that are better than Blake Bortles. When we start getting to number one, Tom Brady. What are we going to do with it?
Right.
Shocked that Tom Brady's better than Blake Bortles.
I think Sims is going to pivot. I think he has some fun ideas in store for us.
All right. Well, let's see. We've got 40 more days to figure it out.
We'll speak with him every day from Radio Row, the Mall of America food court.
Nice.
Well, Allison is really bothered by this. For those of you who don't know, the show doesn't enjoy Super Bowl week. I certainly don't enjoy Super Bowl week. I think it's the worst week of sports media coverage that we have, where we're just an infomercial on behalf of this big game, and all journalism gets thrown aside, and we just party for a week and give you predictions. Teddy Bruschi tells you that he thinks the Patriots are going to win. So that's what you're in for next week. And Allison is going to Minneapolis, but doesn't want to be going to Minneapolis. And so she's sad. What happened?
Who wants to go to Minneapolis? I mean, I don't mean to take shots at the city. I'm sorry. It doesn't really sound like a wonderful place.
It's going to be very cold.
Very cold. Yeah.
And so we're broadcasting. Everyone's broadcasting from the Mall of America. And we are going to have
Food court.
From the food court of America. That is where ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports, is sending you, Allison Turner, at considerable expense. We are sending you to a food court to go do journalism, to go find Patrick Peterson, see what he's selling, and bring him to a microphone so we could talk to him about being Patrick Peterson. And that is how we do entertainment in 2018.
I'm excited.
I'm curious to know how Dove soap made Patrick Peterson better.
That's what we're going to do all of next week. Is they're going to be shilling products. And really the only questions I want to ask them is, Patrick, how much is Dove giving you in product for doing this?
Tio's promoting Febreze.
Oh, I love Febreze.
Oh, is he really? I
Let's
love
do an entire
Febreze.
interview about how Febreze has helped him.
Yeah.
What would be the commercial? Want to get the stink off your career? Want to get into the Hall of Fame with something that doesn't stink on you? Try Febreze.
You're good at this, man.
Are you so great that everyone thinks you stink, even though you're great?
Oh, wow. Jerome Bettis is promoting Land O'Lakes. Wow. He's promoting butter.
Butter? Really?
Well, of course.
Wow.
Really? I mean, that's the way it should be, though. That's good marketing by the butter people. They're like, who do we need to get in sports? What happened? Bartolo? Can we get Butterolo? Can we get Butterolo? No? Okay, get the bus. The bus will do it. Here's the bus on behalf of butter. Does butter really need advertising? Guillermo, put it on the poll. Does butter need advertising? I figure you're either in on butter or you're out on butter, but you're not going to be watching television and say, you know what, I need more butter in my life.
Oh, there's a bunch of different butters out there. There's I Can't Believe It's Not Butter. There's Land O'Lakes. Truffle butter's trying to get in the conversation, Dan.
But does the straight stick of butter, does that need advertising? Dan's right on that. Yes, the other kinds do. The spray butters, all that.
I'm more inclined to get Land O'Lakes if Jerome Bettis is talking to me about it.
Do you guys go butter stick or like in the tube?
I love butter stick.
I'm a tube guy.
Oh, really? Wow.
I go tube, but certain recipes call for the stick. So you always got to have a stick on standby.
So wait a minute. Jerome Bettis is coming to us next week on behalf of butter.
Yep.
I mean, who created this as a business model? What kind of scam is the American media running next week where we just trot out Jerome Bettis with a stick of butter and we put him on the radio and that sells and moves product? Who created this idea? Shouldn't we stop doing that?
No. Why? I mean, are you kidding me? I mean, if not for butter, we don't get the bus on. I mean,
sports meets capitalism. It's such an American celebration. It really is.
With butter.
In a food court.
In a food court in Minneapolis.
How sports radio is that, though? A food court.
I mean, it is perfect.
Come on, perfect.
I can't think of a better. I mean, other than a septic system, broadcasting live from a Minneapolis septic system, I cannot think of a better place for sports radio
right next
than
to
a food court. Maybe some porta potty somewhere on a construction site in Minneapolis would be worse. But other than that, like in terms of sadness of where's sports radio going in 2018, well, of course they're going near the samples at a food court.
Dan Le Batard.
Good work today. That was a fun show.
Stugats.
It was also Intergalactically stupid.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugats on ESPN Radio.
Stugats was looking for a sound of the day liner that he can't find because he thinks he used it to wipe snot from his face earlier in the show. So our apologies to the sponsor that we can't read what we're supposed to read here because Stugats is a incompetent baboon.
Plenty of days left in the week. We only have to read it once a week, and I'm certain we'll play more sound this week.
Okay.
At least I'm hoping.
All right, so we've got some sound here of feuding with the Gasbag radio host in Cleveland.
Unfortunately for us, plenty more snot, too.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and update the polls. Stugats, don't reach through the garbage. I see that on ESPN we have gotten Bob Lee out of hibernation. Somebody sounded the alarm of, we've got a serious story here. No one knows what to do with it. Bob Lee has rumbled from his home in a smoking jacket with a giant beard to handle the journalism of sex crimes at Michigan State.
Do you think they're at this point in Bob Lee's career? Do you think there's any communication? Does someone have to email Bob Lee when a story like this?
I think he feels it. I think he feels it and wanders into the office.
No one has to read it. No one says, "Hey, remind Bob that we got the Nazareth story."
He feels the confusion from Bristol. It seeps into his pores. He takes off his smoking jacket, puts down his snifter, and marches in to do journalism. And he's been doing it for decades. And thank you, Bob Lee, for doing it for us, because otherwise, it would be First Take doing it. It's better that you handle it. So let's go ahead and update the polls, please, at Le Batard Show.
Who is Zaz mad at? Sweet Tomatoes, the Reed himself. 53% of the audience said himself.
There was locally here in Miami, Zaz, our favorite person. He's crazy. He was doing a read for a local restaurant, Sweet Tomatoes, and it's as angry as anyone's ever been at Sweet Tomatoes.
Say able to 4-pack of tickets to see 4-pack of tickets. Say able to a coupon 4-pack. Four you're gonna go eat at Sweet Tomatoes. There you go.
He's stoning himself.
So he was mad at himself. All right, very good.
Can you get mad at Sweet Tomatoes? 57% of the audience said no. Is Kevin Love jealous of Kyrie Irving?
Wait a minute, I beg to differ.
Four you're gonna go eat at Sweet Tomatoes.
Sweet Tomatoes has never made anyone that angry.
Nope. Four you're gonna go eat at Sweet Tomatoes.
All right.
Is Kevin Love jealous of Kyrie Irving? 86% of the audience said yes. Is Kevin Love jealous of what's going on in Minnesota? 87% of the audience said yes. Does Kevin Love stand up for himself while he's alone in his bathroom at home? 59% of the audience said yes. Is it always bourbon chicken that they use as the sample at the mall to lure you into the den of
inequity? No, a den of inequity. Go ahead. What is it? What's the number?
87%.
Not.
It's always the bourbon chicken.
Always, man.
Should Tony Siragusa's agent be ashamed of himself?
Yeah.
82% of the audience said yes. Would Dan's career survive a very public scandal involving him wearing women's undergarments? 70% of the audience said yes.
Hey, congrats, man.
Wow, all right. I've reached a special place in journalism. Wow,
I told you that. People wouldn't be that surprised.
Thank you, guys. I'm touched by that.
Yep. Does butter need advertising? 88% of the audience said no.
All right, so let's hear from Anthony Rizzo. If you're just joining us, we had Joe.
It's technically Anthony Rizzo, but he goes by Tony.
Yeah. It's Anthony Rizzo, and he's a Cleveland Gasbag, and he's feuding with Joe Thomas, the left tackle of the Browns. And last time we had Joe Thomas on with us, and Rizzo was threatening Joe Thomas, saying that now he's entering the radio and podcast world.
He's coming to my world, baby.
That's right.
You're coming to I'm a made man.
That's right. He's a made man in Cleveland. And so now what's the latest? Is this guy mad at us now?
Well, word got to him that we played his content for Joe Thomas, and he's not thrilled that we're using him to feed our show.
That's great. That's great. I'm glad that national radio can make up content, free bits. Listen to Le Batard and those other people in there laughing like little children. Oh, try and get the left tackle. Go to hell. All of you.
Wow. Okay.
When I get there, I'll say hi to Art Briles.
He's got more.
Folks, I just want you to know how this goes. Okay? I'm going to go home and relax this afternoon, okay? Because I have many things to do. I have lunches tomorrow at yacht clubs with executives and after the show.
What are the yachts on that lake that caught fire?
Yacht clubs, plural.